Good Monday morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I know it's early. It's Mindset Monday, and it's an early one. Well, earlier for me, anyways. I have a busy day planned, and I thought I'm going to jump on earlier than usual. So today, I want to talk about that notion of when we're stuck. If you don't know me, my name is Linda. I'm your Back in the Groove Again coach. I'm the moderator of the famous group Women Who Want to Get Back in Their Groove, and we will be changing that name probably today or tomorrow. Good morning. And I'm also on the Facebook, YouTube today as well. So let's talk about this notion of getting stuck. Have you ever gotten stuck? Whoever's watching me right now, tell me if you've ever gotten stuck. I'll give you an idea. And I'm not talking about getting stuck in snow or getting stuck in traffic or getting stuck, in a snowstorm. Not that notion. Just the idea that you can't move on from something. You can't move on from making a decision. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I wanted to leave my job. A long, long time ago, I wanted to leave my job, and I just couldn't decide. I went on and on in my mind about why I didn't like the job and possibilities of what would happen after, I would leave the job. I was so afraid of leaving my job that I felt stuck. I I couldn't decide what to do. So that's the kind of getting stuck that I'm talking about. Or, if you're in a terrible relationship and you don't know if you should break up, you don't know if you should keep going, you don't know if you should go back to your ex-husband, something like that stuckedness. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before. That's the kind of stuckedness I'm talking about today. Have you ever been stuck like that before in the past about anything? I'll give you another example. I have somebody that I'm going to be meeting on the weekend. This person is stuck. He says that he can't decide whether to buy a house or not, or he can't decide to apply for a job or not. He's not sure what to do. That's the stuckedness that I'm talking about. So I'm going to be giving you three tips right now on uh, how to how to get past those stuckedness feelings. So the first tip is to let go of the past. Let go of the past. Now, how many times do you hear yourself repeating the same stories? Yeah, well, it never worked in the past. Yeah, but you'll never be able to make it. You'll be broke. You'll never find another job. All of these stories that we hear in our minds. Can you identify with that? So, those stories are the stories that keep us stuck. And this is part of the tip. The tip number one is to let go of those stories, let go of the past. And I'm going to suggest that, instead of blaming yourself or blaming others, for whatever didn't work out, forgive yourself. Number one, forgive yourself, forgive your others, and stop listening to those stories. You might even have to change those stories. And what I mean by that is, and I've done that. I've done that. I'll give you an example. Some of you may know this, maybe most of you don't. I was married 3 times. And for some people, it's like, oh my God, I know. When I think about it now, it's like, wow, how could I have done that? But I did it, right? I did it. And when it came to other relationships after that, I always thought that they would fail anyway. So why even bother? This whole story about how I failed other relationships in the past, how I'll never be worthy of a relationship, those stories in my mind kept me stuck. It kept me stuck. So I've let go of those stories. It's a couple of things that I did in that case. I accepted the fact that I was single, and you know what? I was loving it. I needed to change that story around, to be honest with you, to get to from liking being single to loving it. So I wrote a lot of different stories. I am a successful woman. And I went on and on and on. And and these were the truth. All of these things in my life that I'm successful with, right? So I'm looking for proofs that say otherwise. So write new stories. That's tip number one. And that's something that I'm encouraging you to consider if you are feeling stuck in something. The other thing, too, tip number two, is to change your perspective, right? So you want to let go of the past, you want to release that grip of the past, and you want to start seeing your new reality in new ways. And one of the ways to do that is meditating, by meditating and simply like not paying attention to those thoughts, acknowledging that those thoughts are there, but just allow them to float away like on a cloud. And a lot of times I've noticed that myself too. I like to travel, to go somewhere else. For example, I've been snowshoeing lately and attempting to cross country ski lately. Well, I'll tell you, when I go out in nature, I don't think about my problems. Now, I don't have a lot of problems now, I have to admit, okay? But in the past, I had more issues. But just by going away and being in nature has really been helpful. I've also noticed that when I drive somewhere and I could just be exploring a new little town. Now, believe me, where I live, it's easy for me to get lost. It really is because there's a lot of little streets that I don't know, side streets in the small little towns near my place. So sometimes on a Sunday I'll just go for a drive and I'm going, I don't really know where I'm going, but it's okay. I'll figure it out. So that notion of changing perspective and saying it's okay, I'll figure it out. It means I'm not stuck in the past. I'm actually open to learning new things. I'm actually hoping to learn a new way to get to where I want to go, right? So changing perspective. I'm wondering how, excuse me, I have to take a drink of coffee. How do you change perspective? I know there's a few people listening now. What do you do to change perspective? A couple of people on my Facebook group, the famous women who want to get back in their groove, which we're going to change the names, by the way, and a person on my YouTube channel. Welcome. So, how do you change perspective? Oftentimes I've noticed that if I talk to somebody about my issues, somebody that I might know, or even somebody that I don't know that well, they're going to give me a very different perspective. And I'm thinking, I never really thought about it like that. So, opening yourself up to new people, new ideas, and being active, being active will help you change your perspective on that issue. And of course, the first tip, of course, was to rewriting stories. So I'm going to suggest that's step number one is to rewrite stories, rewrite your stories, change your past in that sense. Um, and I'm just going to go back to that first tip. I have to admit that sometimes those old ideas come back, but I quickly remind myself that that's not the truth anymore. And then I go back to my new story. Now it takes work, and that's why sometimes working with a coach is helpful because we don't usually go from changing a story to believing it right away. So tip number one was to change your story, to let go of the past, and tip number two was to change your perspective. And the third tip, and the last tip, is to start with small changes. So, for example, and I'm just going to maybe I'm trying to think of an example here. Um, Maybe I want to move. Maybe I do want to move and I want to sell my house, but I'm just not ready to do the whole thing yet. So I'm kind of stuck in the I'm not ready yet. I want to do it. You want to start with small, small changes, small, small steps, and maybe Maybe a small step would be to talk to people who have moved before. Or maybe a small step would be to start decluttering one aspect of your one part of your house. That's just one small step. Like when we take one small step, and I'm talking about, a lot of people, they want to go from A to Z like right away, and they think it's going to happen right away, but it doesn't happen like that. So instead of going from A to Z, you might want to go from A to B. What's that next little tiny step you need to do to start feeling unstuck, to start feeling like there's movement there, there's hope there. So that tiny little step. So if you're thinking, well, even from A to B is too much, well then maybe it's A1, A2, A3. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it's like that marathon idea. I've never run a marathon. No, I've walked a half marathon, but I like walking, and I would not go do a marathon like tomorrow. Why? Well, first of all, I'm a little bit out of shape, and I don't think I'd be able to do it, but I could certainly do 1K, and I can do more than 1K. So if you're thinking, well, that's too big for me, that's too big of a change for me, I can't do it, I'm stuck, then you don't need to be unstuck right away, right? You want to just maybe start creating a little bit of change. It's a little bit of movement. So, what's that next little step that you need to take to feel that? Hmm. And sometimes what happens when you take a little step, it does help to change your perspective. And then lots of different things can happen. So, first of all, you might start feeling a little bit more relaxed about what you're stuck about. And then, next thing you know, you might go, I think I'm ready to do this. Like it can happen like that. Has that ever happened to you that you were so resisting something, so resistant to something, and you've decided to let it go, and all of a sudden something something changes. I'll give you the example of I mentioned a little while ago, and I might have said this on this type of live. I'm not sure, but I wanted to leave my job for a long time. Now, I've been out of that work environment now since August 2018, so I've done it. But it took me years, okay? Years. Like, I don't know, 3, 4 years, a long time where I thought I didn't want to go to work the next day. I didn't want to. And so I was really stuck there because I thought I was afraid of doing it. I really was. I was afraid of not having any income. And I have to admit, my income now is not the same as it was, but I'm a lot happier now. I don't have that stuckedness anymore, right? So I kind of was resistant to it for a long time. And I did talk to different people about it. And I prepared myself along the way. I started, doing some coaching on the side. I started teaching some English on the side. So I had, other little projects on the side that would bring me some income, um, working from home. But it was that one thing that happened to me that made the decision. And it was when my son got sick. He got really sick, and I thought, that's it. That's it. I wanted to have the flexibility of being able to go see him when he was sick or if he was sick. Okay, I wanted to do that. And I thought with my job, I wouldn't have that type of flexibility. So that day that he got sick, I took some time off work, told my boss I'm on my way. My son's not doing well. And it was the drive there, because I had to go to North Bay. It was the drive there. On my way there, I thought, I'm quitting my job. I made the decision there and then, and the next day, Actually, I think the next day was a weekend. I can't remember now, but I think we were doing a professional development day or team building day that next day. So I did give my notice that next day, and it was done. It was done, but it took me a while to get there. I was kind of stuck for a while, so there was a lot of different things here, that we can do to get stuck. But I think those three tips that I shared, I'm just going to repeat them. Tip number one was to let go of the past, and I suggested rewriting your stories. So you have stories in the past, you might hear them time and time and time again. Well, put a stop to that and literally write down, write down your new story. I am a successful woman. I am in a healthy relationship. And you might go on and on. And even though it might not be true, write it as if it would be true and read it out loud and read it to yourself in the mirror so that you could really start changing your belief patterns and start looking for proofs of how successful you are. Okay. The number two was to change your perspective. And I gave a couple of examples here of how I go into nature. And all of a sudden, I start thinking of things on a different perspective altogether. I also suggested to do some meditation, to just notice those thoughts that float away, not get hung up on those thoughts. And I also suggested to talk to new people, talk to other people, and they might provide you with a new perspective too. And the last tip was to start with small, small changes. Don't go from point A to Z. You might have to go from point A to point A1. What's that tiniest little thing you need to do to move in the right direction? If you're stuck, you're not moving anywhere, and you want to move in that direction. I know that when we're stuck, we know where we want to go, but we just can't get there. You just can't get there. So taking a little tiny step will be helpful to you. So those are my tips for today. Mindset Monday. I hope you have a wonderful day. I know whoever's watching me now, thank you for watching me, by the way. I'm going to be posting new names for our group. By the way, I think you might have read that in the group. I've been getting requests from males, number one, obvious males, and I reject them right away. But then I get requests from people that I don't know if the name is a male name or a female name. But yesterday I found out it was a man. Okay, let's just put it that way. So I, of course, rejected him. So if I check as much as I possibly can on Facebook, but if you get any messages from people that are seemingly inappropriate to you, please just let me know and I'll remove them from the group. Deal? Because, I want this group to be for women. And it's not like we talk about really deep personal stuff, it's not like we do that. But I want it to be a community that you feel comfortable in talking about whatever it is you want to talk about. And I think it's when we build that trust that you might feel more comfortable talking about things that are upsetting you. And if you knew there was a guy there or a man there, you might not feel comfortable for that with that. So that's why, if you are getting any inappropriate messages in our group, just let me know. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this live Mindset Monday. I'm working on a new challenge, by the way. I'm having fun with it. So that should be coming up really soon. I'm going to start marketing it really soon, and it's going to be on the group. So far, the title of it is From Unmotivated to Excited. It's all about going from, when we're feeling that kind of blah feeling, the so kind of not into it feeling, to feeling excited. So that's the new challenge. I'm working on it as we speak. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Have a great day.